Welcome, everyone, to the Howl podcast, where we feature individuals from various backgrounds who have captivating stories to tell. And our goal is to bring people together by sharing diverse perspectives and experiences. And in today's episode, Season 2, Episode 4, this will be my first time hosting. My name is Juan Raimundo Ramos, and I am very much looking forward to being another host in the Howl, one of three. And Nick has been doing such a phenomenal job with season 1 and also the other episodes. So I'm very much looking forward to doing this alongside the other hosts as well. So today we'll be joined by Ada-Nicole Sanger, who is a singer-songwriter from South Florida. And she and Dan Kidney released their debut EP titled Entity 23 this past June and are excited to be working on a second EP, which will be released later this year, which is super exciting. Ada-Nicole is also a former child actor, best known for her role as Kevin James's daughter. If I pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, Donna Lamonsoff, and the Grown-Ups in the Grown-Ups film starring Adam Sandler. And that's pretty much a big deal. So without further ado, let's welcome Ada-Nicole Sanger. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello everyone, and hello Juan, how are you?
Hello. So Ada, for the listeners who don't know much about you or who haven't seen the Grown-Ups films or your music, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and just tell people about yourself.
Hi, well, I'm Ada. You can just call me Ada. My name is Ada-Nicole Sanger, but I make it a lot simpler for everyone. I am a very artistic person. I've always been inclined to art, whether it be visual media or performance. It's just something that's always been a part of my blood, and I'm very much a people person, which is very, very odd because I'm extremely introverted. But I really love connecting with people, everybody, whether they be good, bad, ugly, I love the human experience and learning about them, which I think is another thing that led me to acting in my life, because you really do get to try and understand different perspectives. And that's really what I'm all about, is just trying to understand, different people, where they come from and how their views of the world are shaped. Because I think understanding is one of the most important things in this world, because a lot of things like hatred and fear come from a lack of understanding. So that's really what drives me is art and human connection.
Absolutely. You're definitely a people person. Every time we would see each other walk by, we'd be like, hi, Ada. Hi, Juan. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So it's always a pleasure seeing Ada. So I wanted to get in touch with you about the entertainment industry. And I wanted to ask about how did you get started with the entertainment industry or in acting, right? Did you have any prior experience in film or television, or did you have any prior theater experience before Grown-Ups?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a wild journey, because I just remember since I was old enough to watch movies, I always fell in love with those old Hollywood musicals. So the Singing in the Rain, anything with Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Judy Garland, I love them, and I loved that those actors weren't just actors. They were stars. They were performers. They would sing. They would dance. They would perform full out. Always loved Broadway. So it really started, as most little girls do, is my parents signed me up for dance classes. So I started dancing. There happened to be a vocal coach in the same plaza. Started singing with her a bit, learning about that. And I entered a competition here in South Florida. I sang at the South Florida Fair, and I was, at the time, the youngest competitor in the Stars of the Future competition. And, I brought the house down. I had so much fun doing that. People were just amazed, I guess, to see somebody my age singing and dancing, because most of the people competing in the singing category were just singing. And I was dancing. I was doing the whole performance. I was giving them everything. I even sang Candyman and threw candy at my audience. So I was given. Okay. But they loved me. And there was a talent scout there that asked me if I wanted to start doing acting lessons. And I did. And I stuck with it. And then I got invited to do a competition in New York with people from all over the country, casting directors from both New York and LA. So really a huge experience. And they really liked me. And they said that they wanted me to either come to New York or LA to give my shot at acting. So at the age of like 7, I had to decide, did I want a pool? Did I want to go to New York and try Broadway, or did I want to go to LA and try film acting? Which was a very difficult decision at that age. But
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to do LA just because film seemed a bit more variety. I absolutely love
Mm-hmm.
theater, but at that age, I felt like I would get tired doing the same thing every day, every week, doing the same show. Now, of course, I love it, but as a kid, I just wanted a bit more change of pace. And luckily, we were able to go out to LA. It was only supposed to be for 3 months or so,
Mm-hmm.
but things started going really well. And I got commercials and other small projects.
Nice.
And we decided to extend the stay past 3 months. And then eventually it continued into a 10-year stint out there.
Wow.
Because of things like Grown Ups and Moonrise Kingdom and New Girl and all those different things. And it was just such a phenomenal experience. And it all just started with me being a fan of old Hollywood movies and wanting to do what they did. And of course, supportive parents that were willing to let me give it a try.
Yeah, what was your initial reaction when you got in Grown Ups? As soon as you got the notice, like, Ada, we're casting you.
It was the coolest thing. So, little bit of a backstory is that shortly before I even got the audition for that part, is I had already been on a bunch of auditions, and I decided to sit down and set goals. And I said, my number one goal as an actor is to do a movie with Adam Sandler. And then a month or 2 later, I get a call from my agent saying, hey, we've got an audition. We'll send you the script. It's for an Adam Sandler movie. And I go, no way. Like, it was too perfect, too much serendipity. And so, of course, I worked my butt off getting ready for that audition, and I went in and had a really fun time with the casting director. Ended up getting the callback, and this is a bit rare for callbacks, but I actually ended up meeting with the director at my first callback. Usually you get that at later callbacks, but it was really nice. So I got to do my thing in front of the director, and he ate it up. He thought it was hilarious. We clicked. We just vibed so well together. And then a few days after that callback, we got a call saying that I was shortlisted, which means basically that you're in the top 5 candidates for that. So they kind of put you on hold, on reserve, in case they end up wanting you for that project.
Right.
And that just put me over the moon. I mean, I was already excited to get the audition, and then the fact that I got to go back and the director was in the room, and then to have that, I was like, oh, it was so close, so close. But then things kind of take a little bit of a long time in LA, so it was a couple weeks or so just sitting, waiting it out. And I get home from school one day, and my mom's got this look of anticipation on her face. I'm like, that's a little weird. There were balloons. I'm like, what's going on? And she was just smiling at me. It's like, wait. She says, yeah, you got it. And oh my gosh, I don't want to hurt anyone's ears, but I screamed. It was the most exciting thing ever. Amazing moment, because it was honestly a dream come true. I set that goal. It's something I had always wanted, because I'd always loved Adam Sandler. He was one of my favorites growing up. So to set that goal and then achieve it just meant the world to me, and it still does. It will always be just a huge part of me.
Absolutely. And congratulations to that. And, I remember, I think it was like 2009 or 2010. I forgot what years it was. But, I was watching Grown Ups, and then I just saw Ada in the film, and I was like, wait, that's Ada. I've seen her so many times before. I didn't know she was in this movie. That's actually crazy.
Yeah, because it was funny, because I don't think it was until like late middle school that we started talking or so.
Yeah.
So we knew each other. We'd seen each other in school or anything, but we hadn't really spent a lot of time or anything. So I can imagine how interesting that is. And you just see a face, you're like, wait a second, I go to school with that kid.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And the funniest thing was that everybody in my class, they thought I was lying when I told them that I got the role, because I was in 5th grade. And so it was sometime in the spring, so towards the end of the year, like probably April or May. And I was like, I'm going to be in an Adam Sandler movie. Like, I'm going away this summer, blah, blah, blah. So we started filming in May. So they didn't believe me until May came around and I wasn't in the classroom.
There we go.
Because I had to do on-set schooling when we were filming. So, you know, people would tease me like, oh, you're lying. You just made that up because, like, you want to be cool, things like that. And I was like, man, I wish. But, like, yeah. So then I come back after the summer, 6th grade starts, and they're like, so what? And actually, I think I missed the first week or two of school then because we filmed into August. And so school had already started.
Right.
And Ada's not there. And then she comes back, and I was like, hey, look at these pictures of me with these guys doing this thing. And some people still didn't believe it, or, like, you know, of course, if they didn't see the evidence, they wouldn't believe it. And then later on, when the trailer started coming, because the first trailer dropped the weekend, it was during March Madness, actually. It was during the game. That's when they debuted the trailer. And sure enough, I was in at least 80% of that trailer. And I'm like, hi, it's me.
Yeah, what was it like working on that film, or those two films, per se?
Just one of the best, or two of the best experiences of my life, because everybody on set was so friendly. Like, all of those big, I mean, you in a movie with all those big names, Kevin James, Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, David Spade, Chris Rock, Maya Rudolph, Salma Hayek, Maria Bello, like, I need more air just to get through it all. And to be working with those guys for months at a time and get to do it all over again, it was incredible. And they are the most down-to-earth people. None of them had, like, a huge chip on their shoulder. They weren't jerks, or at least if they were never jerks when I was around, you know, to my knowledge. They were great with all the kids. You could tell that Chris had to hold his tongue a bit just because of who he is, the way he talks. He had to be a little careful around the kids, but he was still great with us. David Spade himself is a giant kid. He had a lot of fun with us, and just, they're all so personable. Rob Schneider was one of my favorites. Him and Maya Rudolph were probably my favorites on set, just because they were the sweetest, and I would talk to them. And Maya Rudolph, her daughter was very, very young at the time. And at the last day of filming for the first film, I was going around saying bye to everybody, and she was hanging out there, and she told me that her daughter had a doll that she ended up naming Ada because she really liked my name. And I was like,
wow.
The fact that I get to leave, you know, not only did I work with all those guys, and they're hilarious, by the way. It's true what they say, like, maybe 50% of the movie is scripted, and the other 50 was just them.
Improv.
Yeah, full improv, just being silly, stupid, goofy, hilarious. You know, they basically just use the script as a guideline.
Exactly.
And it's so funny to just watch it. I mean, if you were to take everything that they did, it would be an 8 or 9 hour movie.
Wow.
But yeah, it was wonderful being with them, and then going home knowing that Maya Rudolph had a doll in her house named after me. I was like, that is so cool.
That's such an honor. Yes.
Cute.
So how was your experience working with Adam Sandler and those other big actors in Hollywood influence your approach to acting?
Well, I've noticed that they're very natural about it. Obviously, they're doing a lot of slapstick humor, but there's always a certain amount of truth. Right. So it's not always like they're playing an outrageous character. They're just finding, like, a different truth of themselves. And yeah, you can go a little bit crazy with it or not, but I really do love the fact that they're very real about it. I mean, when you watch Adam Sandler films, he's very much Adam Sandler in every single one, but it's a slightly different version. When you watch Uncut Gems, or if you watch 50 First Dates, very different, but they feel real no matter what he does. So it's cool to do that. And then, of course, just, like, taking notes on comedic timing and everything from them, because how better to learn than work with the best? And, you know, that's what a lot of them did when they were coming up on SNL and things like that. They were working with other people with strong comedic intuition and just absorbing all of it. And that's what I was. I was sitting there, I was absorbing everything, noticing all the little details that they did, and just really taking it to heart. But then also, you know, taking note of the fact that they were still real people off camera too. Absolutely. That they were genuine, that they still cared. There was very family-oriented set, and so they had a good balance. And that's cool to see because there's plenty of people in Hollywood that don't have that balance. You know, they can go over the top and kind of lose themselves, but they were all very authentic to themselves and to their work.
Mm-hmm. And can you share any memorable moments from your time during Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2 that you want to share to the audience that you'll always cherish?
Oh, there's just so many. I mean, well, I already told you about the Maya Rudolph because that really just touched me leaving set that way. I would have a lot of talks with Rob Schneider. I mean, there was one time when we were filming, it was a little clip, we were going on a hayride to go to the 4th of July party. And we were walking together and we just kept talking to each other. And he was just so sweet about everything and wanting to talk to me. And he looks at me and says, "Hey kid, you're pretty funny." And I said, "You're really funny too." And it was a look on his face, like the highest, like, really? You think I'm funny? Rob Schneider. But the fact that, you know, he really admired my judgment of him, that it mattered what my judgment of him, you know, because I say he's funny, he's funny. There's so many little things like that there. Well, I talked about this on TikTok once, but I would like to formally apologize to Adam Sandler. There was an outtake where my knee ended up in the family jewels, and that could not have been a good one. But, you know, it's one of the many outtakes, and I do apologize. It was an accident. He knows it was. It was hilarious, though. You could hear everybody on set. Or when I was doing the smashing of the cake, which seems to be a crowd favorite. Luckily they can edit audio out, but when I was smushing it and throwing it and I storm off, you could hear Adam laughing so loud from the producer's tent that was just around the corner, because of course they're watching the live feed, and you could hear him laughing his butt off, and I'm just like, did that maybe ruin the take? Can you But it's funny, the amount of takes that we had to redo or stuff because we're cracking each other up, or there's all these little things. And it's so funny watching a movie that you've been in, because yeah, you're enjoying it, but also at the same time, everything you see up there, you have at least 10 memories going on in your head while you're watching that. Like, oh, this happened, oh, that happened. At the beginning of Grown Ups 1, when we pull up to the church and you meet Rob for the first time and his toupee starts doing the whole flippy flap. That was not scripted. It was a very windy day.
And
that wasn't intentional. So when you watch it, you see Adam's not actually looking at Rob, and then at the very, very end of the clip, he looks up and you hear him laugh. That is a completely genuine laugh, because nobody saw that coming. He wasn't looking. He looks up, next thing he sees is the hair going like that. He lost it. And it's still in the film, which I love, because that's just such a true and genuine moment. Or when David does his little "it's amazing" comment in the hallway at the house, you can see Maria Bello lose it. She has to hide her face because it was too good. And I mean, they constantly just cracking everybody up. So it's really fun to be able to see those things and remember how it was when everything was going on. So every single thing in there is a memory for me.
Love it. I feel like in some ways making a comedy film is kind of hard when either the cast or crew are just trying to hold, their laughter inside.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's already hard enough when you've got one or two great comedians, but then when you've got 10 or 12 all in the same spot, oh my gosh, I don't know how we just made it through all of that.
Yeah. Were there any crew or cast that were basically just like in the bloopers, like laughing out loud and kind of ruined the take, or no?
Mostly Adam. Because, I mean, we would all, especially during the first one, most of us were around most of the time, because we had a lot of big group scenes. So we were kind of all around. Most of the time we weren't too bad on screen, but a lot of times you would hear him laughing from behind, or just like when something really funny happens, not everybody can hold it together. So just everybody collectively laughs. And I will say, especially as a young actor that's just started, I mean, that was my first big project. Everything else had been little commercials and stuff like that, but with that being my first big project, to have all those guys, plus the producers, the directors, the crew, laughing their butts off at what I did, was just so validating. And it was really one of those, like, I'm in the right spot moments. That's where you realize, awesome. What I'm doing is the right thing. I'm on the right path, and I'm doing it right because they're laughing and they're hilarious.
That's great. Yeah, I love the swimming pool scene That was probably one of my favorite ones in the movie.
Yeah, that
Um,
is a fun one.
yeah, that was so funny. And what were the most important things you learned from working on set or working with the actors and grown-ups?
Most important things was really just being nice to everyone and being real with everyone, because a lot of people can forget that. So, it's never, no job is too small. Everybody pulls their part. PAs, I swear, production assistants, claps to you,
Absolutely.
because these guys put in so much blood, sweat, and tears into the project. They'll work crazy hours, maybe if they're lucky, getting 4 hours of sleep 7 days a week. Like,
Oh, I'm sure.
especially on such a big production. I mean, yeah, sometimes it fluctuates, but that's really what I learned, is that just to make sure that I was very inclusive, because getting to work on different projects, you do see the different cultures and environments on different sets. Every set you step onto is going to be different. It's going to have
Absolutely.
a different dynamic. And grown-ups and grown-ups 2 really just had the healthiest dynamics that I was on, just because, again, it was very family oriented and everybody was so genuine, whether it be the cast or the crew. Everybody was connected. And also, Adam really likes to use a lot of the same crew as well as cast. You'll see it in a lot of his films. He uses the
Hmm.
same people over and over again. So they're very comfortable and familiar with each other. So it really kind of just felt like a big friends and family gathering, and we were just working together.
That's awesome. That's
It
awesome.
really was. And
Yeah.
then again, being able to do it again for number 2, and it was the same
Wow.
cast and crew for the most part. So the
Yes.
same script supervisors, the same directors, all of them, same. So it's a reunion.
That's amazing. Every time I work on set, whenever it feels like I'm not working, that's pretty much the best feeling when you're working with people you're
Exactly.
collaborating with, and have been sharing the same goals, and it just feels like a family. That's how I
Mhm.
felt with my previous film, Tahanan, feature
Yes,
film.
congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you so much.
So exciting. And I love that you have a good group to be working with as well. Everybody at Howl is just incredible.
Awesome. Thank you for that shout out.
Sure.
But I want to transition more into the other phase of your career, which is the music career, right? So how did you transition from your acting to music and composing?
So I took a little break. After I graduated high school, I decided I wanted to go to college. Well, it was the right time. So, a lot of people think, oh, college is this big stressful thing. For me, college was a break. Because I had been working professionally for 10 years and going to school. I didn't do homeschooling. We didn't want to do that because we wanted to give me as much of a normal childhood as possible. Because you hear a lot about child actors, so we figured that me actually being in school was going to be the healthiest thing. So I'm really, really grateful to my parents for keeping me in school and doing it that way. Not that there's anything wrong with private schooling, but it's easy for kids to get weird because they don't get that social interaction with people their age. If they're
Hmm.
working, most of the time they're going to be with a lot of adults, and also just the pressures of working as a kid. It's a lot. So I'm glad I got that balance. So it was nice to take a little step back. I got to enjoy college for the most part, because it did get cut a little short when the world decided to close down.
Right.
But for the most part, I got, I was 3.5 years of normal college experience, and I loved it. And then once the world did shut down, I was trying to figure out what to do, because now I am out of school, but a lot of things weren't hiring because a lot of people, either lost their jobs, like laid off, got temporarily postponed. So anybody
True.
entering the workforce as a new person really didn't have a shot unless you were promised a job beforehand. And even then it was shaky. So I was really trying to figure out, what can I do with myself that's mostly in my hands, in my control. And I have just always, always loved music, as I've made that clear a gazillion times. And I decided to start playing around with that. And then luckily, a neighbor of mine, that's Dan Kidney, he's my writing partner. He had his own band for years. He played just about every nightclub in New York City for 20, 30 years. So he's incredible. He knows what he's doing. And we started talking and we started writing together. And it was just magic. It's hilarious because he's in his 60s and I'm in my 20s. So we
Hmm.
got a good 40 years between us. But we really do just work so well together. He brings in such movement, such spirit and experience. And then I of course have my own thoughts and narratives, my feelings, the melodies that just dwell in my head and are dying to be brought out into the world. And the fact that the two of us just worked so well together to bring these songs together is a true blessing. And we've been able to develop that. We put our first EP out in June. Actually,
Hmm.
Friday the 10th is the 1 year anniversary of our first single release, Crash Over.
Already?
Yeah,
Oh
already
my
it's been
god.
a year, which is it's crazy because Crash Over Me is a song that I had written the lyrics and melody to, but I hadn't been able to figure out the music. And that was the
Hmm.
first song that the two of us wrote together. And that's why it was the first one that we put out. And so, yeah, February 10th is the 1 year anniversary of that first song, which is so special to us. We
Wow.
had a phenomenal time getting to write that and make it together. And that's really what set it off. And then I was able to listen to some tracks that he had been writing. And then I started, putting lyrics and melodies and harmonies to it. And that's where you get My Nightmare and Stay. So one is a very kind of rock thing, but it's very personal to me because it's a lot about the stresses, the anxieties, the battles with depression that I and many other people have. The
Hmm.
things that eat away at you at night. And then the other one is a very heartfelt ballad about a fight in a relationship. And those two were completely based off the tracks that he made, and I just found words that fit it and pieced it together. So
That's so
those
cool.
were a very interesting journey. Um, and then everything just kept moving from there. And of course, we finished that first EP and have been continuously working on the second one. And we've already got stuff lined up for another one down the road after that. One bit at a time. But it's
Hmm.
really cool to be able to express myself in that way and have that autonomy between the two of us, where it's really in our hands what we want to do.
Hmm. I love that. And then can you walk me through your songwriting process with your partner? What is it like? What are the inspirations you have, when writing, let's say, Crash Over Me?
So Crash Over Me is actually something that had just been in my notebook for a couple of years. Because I love writing poetry, and that was somewhere between poetry and wanting to be a song. And I kind of always felt like it was probably going to be a song, so I just kept reshaping, especially once I met Dan and we started working together. I kept reshaping it. I was like, okay, this is how it is. So I bring the lyrics and melody, and I start singing it with him, and then we start working on the chords and piecing that together. So that's really cool, getting to start from the words and melody and then building the song around it. And then sometimes we also work like with Dan, where we'll build a bass melody or just some synths, some piano, and a beat, and then I'll start writing the lyrics over it. So people very much ask musicians, how do they write songs? Do they start with the words and lyrics? Do they start with the sound? For us, it's yes to both.
Hmm.
And I like being able to work both ways because sometimes you get a little groove going on and it's so sweet, and you build that up, and then you can make your words that go with the mood of the song, the feeling of it. And sometimes you just have a story or a feeling that you need to express. So you just start with the words and you figure out a melody that goes with it. Sometimes I get a melody and then I have to figure out the words for it. So I work in all different directions. I'm usually the lyric and melody girl, and then he
Hmm.
does a lot of the music. There are, of course, I also write parts. I'm just not as skilled at instruments as he is,
Hmm.
but I always hear things in my head. So as long as I know what pattern I'm looking for, what notes I want to play, what chords, what sound, I can find it and I can communicate it to the other people that play with us. And it's been great. We've brought in a bunch of different musicians, string players, horn players, and really getting to grow that community of writers and grow with them together is just absolutely incredible. And a lot
Hmm.
of my inspiration really comes from my own life experiences or stories that I've heard from other people and their lives. And other times it's really just exploring a specific feeling or a mood,
Hmm.
and just letting it unravel, because once you start down that path, the song really tells you what it wants from you. So it kind of
Ooh,
starts
that's
dragging you
interesting.
along. It's so cool. It's like walking a dog. You know, you might start by, you know, kind of tugging it, say, let's go. Then eventually it's pulling you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it is with songs, at least for me. And I really enjoy that process. But a lot of it really comes down to authenticity, either to
Right.
myself or to connecting with other people. Because every single one of our songs, I feel, is something that someone somewhere will connect to. And I think that's the powerful thing about art, whether it's visual or audio, is that you can really help people feel heard. Because so many people feel like they are misunderstood,
Right.
that they aren't seen, that they're invisible. And to be able to say, I understand how you feel, what you're going through, you know, you're not alone in what you feel, because there's so many people in this world that somebody out there is going to feel for you and understand you and see you, hear you. So I like
Absolutely.
trying to bring that connection if I can.
That's amazing. Yeah. Because every time I listen to music, I basically listen to whatever I'm feeling. Whenever I'm feeling like I want to
Exactly.
go out into the day and go for a run, I go for something more upbeat, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took a listen to your EP NTT 23, and it's very good. A lot of
Thank you.
instrumentals going on, so it looked like there were other musicians that were helping you along the
Mhm.
way. Would you say you have like a set genre, or do you have like multiple ones?
So that is a great question. And I know I've encountered it many times already, and I know it's going to be with me all the time. I don't really think I have a set genre. Dan and I have discussed it a gazillion times because each song on the EP and with the next one we're working on, they're all a different genre. I mean, Say No is country, My Nightmare is rock, Crash Over Me is kind of a love pop kind of song. Uh, and then Ballroom is just a fun ukulele, light, uplifting kind of thing. And then Entity 23 is straight pop. On the next one, we've got different like funkadelic kind of stuff coming up. We've got R&B. So we write all over the place because both of us listen to such a broad variety of music and we have such a broad spectrum of feeling that we didn't want to be tied down to one genre. You know, some people have a strong sense of identity, and I feel ours is almost a lack of identity. That is our identity, which is why partially I went with the name Entity 23 because
Ooh,
it's very nondescript, and also all the songs were written when I was 23. So the album came out when I was 24, but all of them were created and written when I was 23. So that's kind of a snapshot of where I was, and trying to describe it or just trying to come up with a title that fit all of those different songs
mm-hmm.
was difficult. And I figured Entity 23 is nice because it describes me where I was, but it's also not too specific. So we don't really have a set genre. I guess our closest thing that we would be is either Americana or
Mm-hmm.
pop rock. But it's all very free flowing all over the place, which some people might like, some people might, you know, just want something specific. But I enjoy kind of being all over the place, and what I've noticed is that it appeals to a broad spectrum of people because you might not like one genre, but you like the other. I've got friends that are
There
metalheads,
you
and of
go.
course they love My Nightmare, but then they'll listen to the rest of it and they say, "Oh, you know what? I also like this one or that one."
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to hear that, and also generationally, it spans a lot. So people my age can relate to it, people younger than me can relate to it, people Dan's age can relate to it still and appreciate it for what it is. So I think it's inadvertently a blessing that we haven't really nailed down a genre.
Love that. At least you're catering to different types of people, which is very, very, very cool.
And the
Um,
funniest thing is that we're not intentionally catering to them. We're catering to ourselves and what we like. And if other people like that, that's great. That's kind of how we just approach it. We don't ever set out saying, "Oh, I need to write a country song." No, we just start writing, and then the song usually tells you what it wants from you, and then that's how genres happen. Like Say No, I never sat down saying, "I'm going to write a country song right now." I just started writing lyrics, and then I heard the guitar parts that I wanted in my head, and I was like, well, it looks like I'm doing a country song.
love that. That's
That's just
amazing.
how it comes out, yeah.
All right. But this is your first ever EP, first ever songwriting experience. You've never made songs in the past? Or
No, no, I've done covers and I've sung my whole life, but I'd never
wow.
written my own music before
All
until
right.
the past couple years.
Okay, so I would say, what were the challenges in creating this Entity 23?
Well, one is just with it being my first songwriting experience, just being new to the whole process. Because I'd been in recording booths before, so I know how to function in the studio, but I'd never had it completely in my control. I was able to say, yes, I like my vocals, or I want it to sound a little different. But learning all the terminology and the technical parts of mixing and just the technical parts of music, because I've always been a very generalist. I can sit in front of a piano and find my chords, but I'm not, in my opinion, a pianist. So it's really interesting learning the parts of music that I might not have known technically. Like I knew it in my head somewhere because I'm doing it, but I didn't necessarily, know all the names for it. And so learning how to
Mm-hmm.
communicate with other musicians to get what you want, to get everything that's in your head out, that's a bit of a learning curve. And then of course the technical side of it, because we mix our own music with the engineers at the studio. And so it's all our call. So, if something's not sounding right, how do you describe the way you want it to sound? Or, it needs less of this, it needs more of that. What's the vocabulary for that? Whether it has
Mm-hmm.
high end, low end, or you want it to be wetter, drier. These are all things that a lot of people don't think of unless you're constantly in the studio. And then the other thing is just always the race against time, because you always want more time in the studio, but of course, more time in the studio means you got to be able to pay for the time in the studio,
Mm-hmm.
or being able to make decisions in a timely manner and not wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's just constantly that battle of how much can I know and understand, and how long is it going to take me to get there.
Right.
It's always an interesting journey, but those two are probably the biggest struggles. And of course, there's always the good old creative block that you run into
Yeah.
every once in a while, and that's never fun. It's never fun, but I usually find that taking a step away, especially going out into nature or exploring something new that you haven't before, whether it be new music or new film or trying a new restaurant or going to a new event, it just kind of helps you reset and might help you find some new inspiration to get you unstuck.
Love that. And then you mentioned that you're working on new projects in the future after Entity 23. Yeah, can you tell
Yeah.
more details about those
So it
projects?
is going to be another EP. So probably about 6 or 7 tracks. One of them we actually put out as a pre-release single is Rot, which is a very fun, spunky one, very horn-filled track. I had a fun one. It was a really fun one to write. That was very much a pandemic song. Uh, so we have that, but I would also say, yeah, the second album is again very lot of variety on its genres as well. There are a couple songs that might be a little similar to what you've heard before, and then there's some that you've never heard something like that from us.
Love
But
it.
it's a fun, very fun experience, and I got to work with a lot of the same musicians from last time, so there'll be some horns and some strings coming your way again. And
Mm-hmm.
I wrote there's one song that I'm very, very excited about. I had a friend listen to it when we started recording before we even brought the quartet in on it, and it's the most beautiful sad song that I think I could ever write.
I can't wait for
So,
that. I
yeah.
want to listen to that. So with NTT 23 and your upcoming music that's coming out very soon, what do you hope listeners will take away from your story and your music?
I really hope that they'll take away again that there are people that understand them, that care about them, and that I'm there. I'm here to listen. If you're going through something, hopefully I can help you express that or get through it through my music. I hope that you have fun with the music. You use it for however you want. If you want to cry, go listen to Stay. If you want to kind of have a hissy fit or you want to say like, boy, bye, go ahead, listen to Say No. I hope that you'll enjoy it and the authenticity of what we brought to the table, because it really is truly ourselves on that track in the most honest form.
I love that. And guys, if you haven't checked out Ada, is it Ada Dash, right? Ada
Yeah,
hyphen?
it's
Yeah,
spelled with the hyphen,
with a
so we just
hyphen.
say Ada
Ada.
verbally.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I left the dash in is because my name Ada-Nicole is hyphenated. So it's always been
Got
a
it.
huge part of my identity. And we wanted to leave that in as our group name because the dash at the end reminds you that there's always something more. That nothing is ever really what it seems at first, that there's always something else. And, in a simpler interpretation, that dash could be Dan, my writing partner, because we do everything together. So we collectively are Ada with the dash, or it could just be a reminder that there's more to me, there's more to everyone. So
Mm-hmm.
that dash kind of just represents the extension of all of us that we don't always get to see or express, but it's there.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was always wondering about the name Ada hyphen. I was like, what? Why is there a hyphen at the end? Is it possibly because of Ada hyphen before the Nicole? So
Uh,
yeah, I was always
yeah,
wondering
a little
about
bit of
that. So it
both.
was very interesting. A little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, I'm having such a good time with you. This
I
has been
am too,
such an
Holly.
amazing episode. We're down to our final four. So for this first one,
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue a career in acting or music, like what you've been doing, and
Mhm.
especially people who are just starting out, like starting out from scratch, like no resources, no experience whatsoever?
So my biggest piece of advice is keep it real and keep it up, because it's going to take a lot of effort. You're going to have to make a lot of noise to get noticed, because there's just thousands, if not millions, of songs being released each day. Or as an actor, it's a long road because there's so many people with the same dream. But if it's something you're really passionate about, just keep doing something a little bit every day to push you forward, whether it be finding local classes or local theater, or teaching yourself on YouTube if you want to be a better musician, play, or just writing a little something every day. I always say, if there's something you're passionate about, it's like the 10,000 hours, right? Do
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of something every day that helps you grow as an artist. And decide who you want to be. If it takes you a while, that's fine. If you're not sure who you want to be, that's okay, because like I said, I know who I am, but as an artist, I'm still figuring that out. And that's why we don't have the genre and why we're kind of all over the place. But that's because I think that's authentically who I am, is I am all over the place. I've
Right.
always been very scatterbrained and have a gazillion interests.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to embrace that part of me and made it a part of me and the way I express myself.
That's such a good answer.
Thank
That's
you.
such an amazing answer. I'm learning so much from you today, and it's just an honor to have Ada in here in
Well,
this
thank you,
episode.
Juan. Well, you're
Um,
asking some great questions, because you're putting me on the spot. It's harder than the SATs, trying to make sure you can give a
is
great
it?
answer.
Yeah, I wanted to touch base with the process of the music industry, because I see some people doing things by themselves. They're doing all the instruments by themselves,
Mhm.
and everything, the recording, the tracks, the singing, whatever it may be, right? Do you think that it's possible for just a solo artist to do everything by themselves, or do you think that a team along the way who has similar interests and similar goals with you are necessary to achieve, a great career in the music?
So I absolutely believe in the power of self. So if you're doing it all by yourself, major props to you, because it is so hard to be able to hear every single part of a song and put it all together and mix it, produce it. You are a very talented person to be able to do all of that. And I think that it's a great place to start. And you can obviously improve your skills and get better and better and better and put out more. I do say, though, once you start gathering that momentum, be open to the idea of working with other people, because you're only going to grow from that experience. Because I know I've got my own talents, and yeah, I can write songs, but I'm so much better when I work with Dan, when I work with the engineers at the studio,
Yeah.
when we work with other musicians. You know, they bring different elements that I would never have thought of, different perspectives. And I kind of think that's the way to live life. Yeah, you can live life on your own, but it's so much better with other people. And I'm not saying that you got to have a huge team. You can keep doing your own thing and working on that, but just be open to the idea of having more people. I mean, you look at some of the greatest artists out there, and they do a lot themselves, but they're definitely not alone. They've got producers behind them, they've got teams, and that really is a key part of realizing you don't have to be alone, and it's probably better to not be.
That's amazing. What do you think are the key qualities that someone needs to succeed in the music or acting industry?
Dedication. Absolutely dedication and determination. Because if you're not passionate about it, it's going to show, and you're not going to be able to keep it up. Because both industries, music and film, they're tough. They're tough. They're going to put you through a lot. And, you know, I've been in that since I was 8. And you really do learn a lot about yourself, and if you can handle those kind of situations. Because, I mean, you're going to need a lot of durability, because people are constantly going to be telling you no, that you're not enough, that you need to do this or you need to change that. And you need to know what you're willing to change and what you're not. Because I constantly had people wanting to change who I was when I'm 8, when I'm 10 years old, you know, or having something to fall back on as well. Having a good support team is very important. You know, people who are going to keep it real with you and help you keep a level head and a sensibility to you, because it's easy to get lost and overwhelmed by all of it. So yeah, passion, determination, support, and just trying to find a sense of self and a center that you can come back to. Find some sort of calming peace that can help get you through that. Because I mean, I've had my struggles plenty as a child actor, constantly being told, oh, you're too fat, or you're not fat enough to play the fat girl. And, you know, so then at a very young age, you're sitting there like, where do I fit? Because I'm hearing both things, and they're coming from adults, which as a kid, you know, the adults are supposed to help guide you and all that, but they're constantly tearing you down. And it's not personal. That's the hardest part about it. It's not like it's a bully. They're just being completely objective about it and telling these things to your face. And that's really hard to process, regardless whether you're a child or an adult. So it's learning who you should listen to, because everybody's going to have an opinion, and you know, people see it online all the time. People are always going to have opinions. They're going to say whatever they want.
Yep.
And it's hard to not let that phase you, especially if you are going to film and music and you think you might be gathering a following. You're going to get a lot of people knocking on your door with opinions that you don't want. So it's just kind of finding your own truth and knowing who's going to help you wade through to find that truth.
Love that. And how do you deal with those negative comments, maybe from, you know, from adults or from other criticisms you get? How do you deal with that? Do you take some of those and be like, maybe that's useful, and this one, that's not that useful? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, you really have to filter them out. I mean, that's why until I was in high school, I didn't have social media at all, because I knew going through middle school, I was in these films and everything. If I was online, I mean, even without social media, I was still reading things online that were posted about me, or like, you know, fan fiction is a huge thing, where, you know, there would be things saying how much people disliked my character or hating on me for who I was, things like that. And it's really difficult to go through those things, but you really have to just develop a filter on, you know, this person just has a certain outlook on the world. Maybe they're a pessimist, maybe they're unhappy with where they are, and so they feel better by, you know, tearing something else down. Or maybe it's their opinion, but they just don't realize how hurtful it is. But regardless, it's out there, and it will be out there. So it's figuring out when to turn a blind eye to certain things and finding that self-assurance. Like, do not let everything tear you up. Not everything is personal. People are always going to have something negative to say. If it happens to be an insecurity of yours, find someone that can help you work through that, or whether it be a friend, a family member, if you talk to like a therapist or something that can help you as well, depending on how deep those feelings are, or finding an activity or just something that helps pull you out of that negativity and reassure you of your presence and who you are, so that you can find that center again and realize, okay, yeah, that hurt, and maybe that is something I need to work on, but that person doesn't know me. And that's the most important thing to remember, that these people don't know you. They don't know what you're going through. Because I had a lot of weight problems, but I was also going through certain things, and there were reasons why I was overweight beyond my control, really. And it obviously hurt because I knew I was overweight and people commenting on it, but I was able to realize, you know what, they don't know what I'm going through. And the fact that, yeah, I'm overweight, but I still made my dreams come true. I still got to do all that, and it's not stopping me. And that is power right there. And I hope that everybody can have some sort of experience that will help them find that inner power, that affirmation, because not everybody gets such a huge affirmation of getting to work with their heroes, but just finding something in your life that confirms that things are okay, that, yes, this might be an issue, but it's not as big an issue because things are still going well here, So it really is developing a filter, a sense of direction, or having somebody in your life that can help you with that.
I love it. For those listeners who are listening right now to this podcast, I am extremely motivated right now to make my new song. That was amazing. And just hearing your story, Ada, has just such been an honor for me.
Thank you.
And final question.
Okay.
For the audience.
Already? Oh, no.
Already, I know. Yeah, I'm having such a good time, and I'm learning a lot from you as well. And
thank you.
Yeah, what final advice would you leave to the listeners of the Howl about pursuing their passions and following their dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is go for it. If it's something that you really love, find ways to incorporate it into your life and grow it. Just, like I said earlier, do little bit by bit, and really just don't give up hope, because it's gonna be a long road. And I know that really we're capable of anything. Humanity is an incredible thing, and you really never know what the future is going to hold. So just keep going at it. It's going to be difficult, but if it's something that you love, don't give up on it. And realize that it might not always come up to the ultimate, fame and whatever you want, but if you can at least find ways to still pursue what you love, even in small doses, let that be cathartic for you. Let that be something that you can enjoy. You might not always like the job that you're in, but if you have other things going on that you love, let that lift you up. And you never know when an opportunity is going to come up that might change your whole life. So just keep it around there and keep the strength.
Love it. Never give up on your dreams, guys. You guys got this. And everything takes time.
Exactly.
10,000 hours and patience. This has been such an amazing episode. I want to leave the floor to you for a shout out, any things you're going to work on in the future, and also give a shout out to NTT 23 where it's streamed right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can listen to my debut EP, Entity 23. It's available on all platforms, whether you do Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Pandora, YouTube. It is everywhere. It's international. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you can really connect with the sound and the lyrics. We really put a lot into it. I, of course, want to shout out to my partner, Dan. He's amazing. I couldn't have done this without him. Everybody that's helped us, Raincat Studios, our new partners at AMG, and really all my friends and family, because they have been so supportive throughout my life and through this project. And they really make such a huge difference in my life. I love every single one of you, everybody from Ballroom. I actually featured them in the background of the Ballroom song. When you hear the voices giggling and goofing off, those are my Ballroom people, and I love you all so much. Thank you for being there for me.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
Are people with? Should I go walk the door?
Yes, do it. Do it.
You guys can find me. I'm on most social media. So I'm on Instagram. You can follow me. It's Ada_Nicole. I'm also on Twitter. It would be AN Sanger, SANGER, or TikTok, because I'm rocking on there. You can connect with me at Ada_Nicole98. I love interacting with you guys. I might not always have DMs on, but if you're in the comments, I'll see you. I'll respond to you if you have any questions or you just want to chit chat. I'll be there.
Awesome. And it's ADA hyphen, right? On
yes,
Spotify?
ADA hyphen. That's the name of the group.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the listeners who are listening to this episode of this podcast. And thank you to Ada-Nicole Sanger for being here. It's such an honor that we finally made this happen.
And thank you to Juan and everyone at Howl and Gale Entertainment for putting together this podcast and for hosting me. Thank you for all you do, and congratulations on everything you've done this year. We can't wait to see what you guys do.